There's certainly a distinct lack of statistical information on the safety aspects of air traffic control.
The accuracy of air miss figures is often questioned. Controllers like Dave Vaughan are convinced that far more incidents occur than appear in Maitland statistics.
People have called it the tip of an iceberg. I've no idea how big the submerged bit is. That I don't know that anyone can check it.
What actually happens during an air miss that is reported to Maitland's group? From their confidential report, we reconstructed that air miss last April involving Concorde. 3 aircraft were involved: Concorde, flight BA-1 from Heathrow, American Airlines flight 5-1 from Gatwick, and Bryman flight 204 that we saw earlier flying from Birmingham to Gatwick. No one shown in this reconstruction was actually involved. Concorde was prepared for its daily departure for JF Kennedy, New York, at about 10:40. At Gatwick, at about the same time, an American Airlines DC-10 was taxiing for takeoff. The Bryman Twin Otter was about 25 miles northwest of Heathrow at 8,000 feet. At about 10:50, Concorde BA-1 was cleared for takeoff and was passed from Heathrow Control to West Drayton.
Okay. Speedbird Concorde 1, good morning. Climb 6,000 feet, no ATC speed restriction.
6,000, no speed restriction, Concorde 1.
The TMA South controller told Concorde to climb to a flight level well below the Bryman. His plan was to let the Bryman pass safely overhead before telling Concorde to climb again. A few minutes earlier, American Airlines AA-51 was taking off from Gatwick bound for Dallas, Fort Worth. Now AA-51 would be handed over to the controller at West Drayton. So both AA-51 and Concorde would be talking to him on the same frequency.
No ATC speed restriction. You want the Concorde down the middle?
Hold NDB going in. 51, contact land control, frequency 12.
The controller instructed the American AA-51 to climb. And this he started to do.
No ATC speed restriction.
Frequency 125, that's okay.
This climb instruction was heard by the Concorde crew, who mistakenly thought it was meant for them. They set Concorde to climb, straight towards the southbound Bryman. The controller was under pressure with other traffic. He thought Concorde was maintaining his safe flight level well below the Bryman. This is a reconstruction of what he saw on his radar screen. The blip for Bryman 204 was beginning to merge with another aircraft, and this aircraft seemed to be climbing towards 8,000 feet, the Bryman's own flight level. He asked Concorde to report his height, but it was too late. Through the controller, both pilots reported an official air miss. The Joint Air Miss Group prepared their confidential report. It revealed that the Twin Otter pilot thought that there had been risk of a collision, and that the Concorde pilot admitted that he had passed very close to another aircraft. He should have been at least 1,000 feet below him, or 3 miles distant. He was thus far inside the mandatory separation distance. However, the Air Miss Group decided that there had not been a risk of collision, but agreed that the incident had been caused by the Concorde climbing mistakenly. Their report does point up inadequacies in control equipment. The radar information was garbled, just like Bryman PM204 here. It became almost impossible for the controller to decipher. Also, there was no independent warning system on his screen to alert the busy controller that potential conflict lay ahead.
The way in which this air miss report has been classified is good evidence that the system of measuring air safety by using air miss statistics as a barometer is unsound. We don't think that just taking risk-bearing air misses, which we must remember are only reported by pilots, not by controllers, is a true barometer of air safety.
In America, they have 3 air misses every day.
267.9, left landing 105 in the middle market, cleared for takeoff, wind 150 at 9.
103.14 out. 2103 Atlanta Tower, number 49, right, continue approach 115 at 7. Eastern 788, 49, taxi.
641, cross runway 8 right, then ground point niner.
All right, he'll be your sequence. You get behind him at the west end, monitor 119.1.
Eastern 337, connect departure.
Delta 499, Atlanta Tower 9 right, number 2, cleared to land.
Delta 83 heavy, cross runway 8 right, then ground point niner.
83 heavy, climb outside the marker for 8. So will this allow us to shoot visual approaches? Right now it is. The stuff behind me, though, outside of the 20 miles is solid back there.
They say when you die, whether you go to heaven or hell, you have to go through Atlanta first. This was America's busiest airport in Thanksgiving week. Air traffic has grown vastly since deregulation. Then the president sacked over 1,000 controllers. They're still undermanned.
Stop. Do not enter.
Leaving the station, please move to the center of the vehicle and away from the doors.
The scale of America's traffic problem is greater than Britain's, and so are the dangers.
Good evening. This is the CBS Sunday Night News. I'm Charles Osgood. The weather was good. The skies were blue and clear. Visibility was excellent in Southern California. But 2 planes, one a Mexican airliner, the other a small private aircraft, hit each other south of Los Angeles today, and it meant death for 67 people on both planes and for some on the ground, where the wreckage set fire to several houses.
The private plane had wandered into the Los Angeles terminal area unseen by air traffic control. This accident brought the safety crisis to a head. The National Safety Board urged that automated warning systems be brought in for both pilots and controllers.
Yes, sir, that is correct. Seagate 226 radio on a joint J55.
Pan Am 789, contact the Washington Center, 120.95.
All right, try Washington again on 128.15, 2815. If no joy, come back.
One out south of Seattle, 722 Whiskey, climbing high.
Surface is 7,000.
The Americans responded to the air crisis by throwing billions of dollars at the problem. The Leesburg Air Traffic Center controls aircraft from Baltimore to the Carolinas. Here they have equipment different from West Drayton's.
121 Juliet Whiskey, what is your indicated speed, sir?
They have vertical radar screens giving easier visibility.
Blue Streak 5096 has traffic at 1 o'clock.
They talk to one another not by telephone but by electronic keyboard.
744.
And here they already have the automated warning system recommended after the California crash. It's called Conflict Alert. When 2 aircraft come within 5 miles of one another on collision course, the controller gets a warning from his screen. The screen will continue to flash until avoiding action has been taken and the aircraft have separated safely. This system has now been brought in at terminal control areas as well, the American equivalent of West Drayton. Why are they not being used here? Surely it would be useful for incidents like the Concorde air miss.
There is no collision avoidance system available in our programming at the moment which we can employ. The reason for this is that we have a highly complex airspace structure in the United Kingdom, which involves a tremendous amount of climbing and descending aircraft and crossing tracks. Aircraft are not in level flight as much as they are in some other areas. We are currently investigating the parameters which we would have to employ to introduce some conflict alert system in the UK. These have to be very carefully worked out because what we must avoid are constant false alarms in the system.
In America, they're ahead of us in other things too. This is where their old computer used to stand, an IBM 9020 like the model at West Drayton. In a few weeks' time, the 9020 will have disappeared from all America's traffic control centers. And this is what's replacing it, the latest installment of the host computer system, so-called because it welcomes existing software. The host computer is 10 times faster than its older counterpart and has 4 times the capacity. The old 9020 had to work flat out to keep pace with increasing traffic. This caused many failures, just as at West Drayton. The new computer need never exceed a small fraction of its capacity. It is designed not to fail for more than 10 seconds in over 2 years running time. The Americans have a bigger problem than we have. More aircraft, more air misses, more collisions. But they have responded with speed and dollars. Here, the CAA have replaced their radar scanners and have a long-term reorganization plan for West Drayton itself. But this won't start until 1991. West Drayton's computer will not be replaced for several years. The CAA have pledged £200 million investment in new equipment over the next 5 years. But critics say this may be too little, too late. And past re-equipment plans have been beset by problems. This is Prestwick on the Ayrshire coast, where they've just installed a brand new computer. Here, Oceanic Air Traffic Control regulates all transatlantic flights entering or leaving Britain. These controllers do not use radar to see the aircraft, nor do they talk direct to the pilots. They control the flight paths by computer. Their new computer does have a conflict alert warning system. But the problem is, Oceanic's new computer keeps breaking down.
In terms of necessitating a return to what we call manual reversion procedures, that is, procedures where the automated benefits are not possible, the computer in 6 months has failed a total of 19 times.
The computer operation has now been inspected by consultants urgently called in by the CAA. They said more supervisors were needed and the software should be more rigorously tested.
We have had consultants in. They have made a number of proposals, and I hope on the basis of their proposals on which we're acting, we will overcome these problems. But I think everybody who has had this latest state-of-the-art technology has often found that in the early stages its performance is sometimes not quite as good as the older equipment which it replaces.
It is at Britain's newest airport that the CAA have suffered their latest embarrassment. The authority had licensed the short takeoff and landing de Havilland -7 to operate from London City Airport in the old Docklands. But barely 2 months after granting the London City Airlines a license to fly, the CAA were forced to suspend all flights to and from Paris on grounds of safety.
The Eurocity 001 Tango Airborne at 10 coming to you. I've got the other one at the holding point ready for departure now.
This is how it happened. The CAA had always warned the London City Airlines that accommodating them in the London terminal area would not be possible for some time. So special arrangements had been made. The control tower would pass outbound flights to a temporary control service called Thames Radar.
004, that's understood. Still awaiting radar clearance from Thames Radar. Stand by. Okay.
Thames radar is housed in the control tower at Heathrow. Here, controllers would pick up London City flights and give them radar cover, but only as far as Gatwick.
Navy 641 contact.
After that, London City flights would have to fly low, staying below the saturated London terminal area. At this height, they would be flying through airspace packed with light aircraft, gliders, and private jets. Further south, Gatwick Control Tower was meant to provide radar cover for Dockland flights, but the special radar here is often unmanned. So London City flights were often without any radar control. Their pilots said they had to eyeball it through densely crowded airspace. The story was leaked to the press. Then the situation grew worse with a series of air misses involving London City flights. Bryman's chief pilot complained persistently that the system was most unsatisfactory and dangerous. After that, the CAA had little choice but to suspend Paris flights immediately. Bryman's complaints were hastily investigated by a special CAA inquiry. A month later, the authority offered the airlines a compromise. They would provide radar cover for London City flights along a small section of the route east of Gatwick, but for 10 outbound flights only. Inbound flights would still have to eyeball it through uncontrolled airspace. There was no question of accepting any flights regularly into the London terminal area proper.
The real lessons of the London City Airport are that what we have been saying for the last year, 18 months, about capacity being reached in the London terminal control area, the southeast of England, are in fact true. They're recognised now by the National Air Traffic Services of the Civil Aviation Authority. They are in agreement, or we are in agreement with them, that we cannot provide a systematic access to the TMA airspace for London City traffic without the provision of extra airspace and without the development of specific procedures using that airspace to get the traffic into and out of the TMA.
I believe that the CAA should take note of the phenomenal growth that we've experienced in the London area over the last couple of years, and indeed are forecast to carry on for the next few years. They should notice that this very small number of extra movements which were projected and were operating out of London City Airport could not be accommodated. Now that surely is a pointer that we have indeed reached the capacity of the existing system, and it is yet another pointer, another piece of evidence that nothing should be spared in efforts to improve and increase that system capacity so that we can face the demands of the future. Otherwise, we're going to stifle this growth industry in which we're all involved.
After 4-week suspension, Paris flights restarted. The London City affair shows just how close to the margin aircraft have been flying in Britain's most congested airspace. It is clear evidence that our air traffic controllers with present equipment and procedures are struggling to cope with today's deluge of traffic. If the system cannot find room for another 20 flights a day in safety, the system must indeed be overloaded.
Good morning, Seabird 5443, with 27 Kilo, passing 105. Seabird 5443, thanks. Fleet Boddington heading 180, slowly reducing 210. 443, we're at 210 now, heading with Boddington. Okay. Lufthansa 1616 is cleared to 3000, QNH 1011, start slowing 210. 1616, range is 20, radar 1204, Seabird 9648, you've got about 18 to go, just confirm that's okay? Okay, 963. Roger 9648, you're clear to 3000. You won't manage your two sheds together, will you? Nah, Heathrow Approach Lot 281, good morning, project level 90, formation kilo. Lot 281, thank you, leave Lambourne heading 260, 9 Alpha left heading 200, radar now 120.4. 204 heading 200, shows 9 Alpha, bye. Bye.